गोपीजनवल्लभ गिरिवरधारी गोपीजनवल्लभ गिरिवरधारी यशोदानन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जन यशोदानन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जन यामुनातीरा वनचारी यामुनातीरा वनचारी जय राधा माधव कुंज विहारी जय राधा माधव कुंज विहारी गोपीजनवल्लभ गिरिवरधारी यशोदानन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जन यामुनातीरा वनचारी जय राधा माधव कुंज विहारी जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर शतश्री श्रीमद् एसी भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर शतश्री श्रीमद् भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती गोस्वामी महाराज प्रभुपाद की जय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय। गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल। We are reading from Canto 9, Chapter 19. The chapter title is King Yayati Achieves Liberation. We don't have purport for the verse number 1. So, we will... You want to read? Yeah? Okay. Okay. So we will read. This 19th chapter describes how Maharaj Yayati achieved liberation after he recounted the figurative story of the he-goat and she-goat. After many years of sexual relationships and enjoyment in the material world, King Yayati finally became disgusted with such materialistic happiness. When satiated with material enjoyment, he devised a story of a he-goat and she-goat, corresponding to his own life, and narrated the story before his beloved Devayani. The story is as follows. Once upon a time, while a goat was searching in a forest for different types of vegetables to eat, by chance he came to a well, in which he saw a she-goat. He became attracted to this she-goat, and somehow or other delivered her from the well. And thus they were united. One day thereafter, when the she-goat saw the he-goat enjoying sex with another she-goat, she became angry, abandoned the he-goat, and returned to her Brahmana owner, to whom she described her husband's behavior. The Brahmana became very angry and cursed the he-goat to lose his sexual power. Thereupon, the he-goat begged the Brahmana's pardon and was given back the power of sex. Then the he-goat enjoyed sex with the she-goat for many years, but still he was not satisfied. If one is lusty and greedy, even the total stock of gold in this world cannot satisfy one's lusty desires. These desires are like a fire. One may pour clarified butter on a blazing fire, but one cannot expect the fire to be extinguished. To extinguish such a fire, one must adopt a different process. The Shastra therefore advises that by intelligence one renounce the life of enjoyment without great endeavor. Those with a poor fund of knowledge cannot give up sense enjoyment, especially in relation to sex, because a beautiful woman bewilders even the most learned man. King Yayati, however, renounced worldly life and divided his property among his sons. He personally adopted the life of a mendicant or sannyasi, giving up all attraction to material enjoyment, and engaged himself fully in devotional service to the Lord. Thus he attained perfection. Later, when his beloved wife Devayani was freed from her mistaken way of life, she also engaged herself in the devotional service of the Lord. So we don't have purport for the text 1. So I'll read the shloka and then we can move on to the text 2. Shri Shuka Uvacha Shri Shuka Uvacha Sa Ittam Acharan Kaman Straino Pahanavam Atmanaha Buddhva Priyayai Nirvinno Gatham Etam Agayata. Translation and purport given by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Translation. Sukdev Goswami said, O Maharaj Parikshit, Yayati was very much attached to woman. In due course of time, however, when disgusted with sexual enjoyment and its bad effects, he renounced this way of life and narrated the following story to his beloved wife. Please repeat after me. Shrunu Bhargavi Amum Gatham Madvidha Charitam Bhuvi Dhira Yasyanushocanti Vane Grama Nivasinaha Shrunu Bhargavi Amum Gatham Madvidha Charitam Bhuvi Dhira Yasyanushocanti Vane Grama Nivasinaha Shrunu Bhargavi Amum Gatham Madvidha Charitam Bhuvi Dhira Yasyanushocanti Vane Grama Nivasinaha Shrunu Bhargavi Amum Gatham Madvidha Charitam Bhuvi Dhira Yasyanushocanti Vane Grama Nivasinaha Shrunu bhargavi yamum gatham madvidha charitam bhuvi dhirayasyanushocanti gramanivasinaha. Shrunu bhargavi yamum gatham madvidha charitam bhuvi dhirayasyanushocanti Panigrama nivasinaha. Shrunu bhargavyamum gatham madvidha charitam bhuvi dhirayasyanushocanti vane grama nivasinaha. Shrunu bhargavyamum gatham madvidha charitam bhuvi dhirayasyanushocanti vane grama nivasinaha. Mataji, please. Shrunu bhargavyamum gatham madgita charantam bhuvi dhirayasyanushocanti vane grama nivasinaha. Shrunu bhargavyamum gatham madvidha charitam bhuvi dhirayasyanushocanti vane grama nivasinaha. Shrunu, please hear. Bhargavi, O daughter of Shukracharya, Amum, this, Gatham, history, Madvidha, exactly resembling my behavior, Acharitam, behavior, Bhuvi, within this world, Dhiraha, those who are sober and intelligent, Yasya, of whom, Anusochanti, lament very much, Vane, in the forest, Gramanivasinaha, very much attached to the materialistic enjoyment. Translation and purport given by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. My dearly beloved wife, daughter of Shukracharya, in this world, there was someone exactly like me. Please listen as I narrate the history of his life. By hearing about the life of such a householder, those who have retired from householder life always lament. Purport. Persons who live in the village or town are called Gramanivasi, and those who live in the forest are called Vanvasi or Vanaprastha. The Vanaprasthas who have retired from family life generally lament about their past family life because it engaged them in trying to fulfill lusty desires. Prahlad Maharaj said that one should retire from family life as soon as possible, and he described family life as the darkest well. Hitvatma patam griham andhakupam. If one continuously or permanently concentrates on living with his family, he should be understood to be killing himself. In the Vedic civilization, therefore, it is recommended that one retire from family life at the end of his 50th year and go to Vana, the forest, When he becomes expert and accustomed to the forest life or retired life as a vanaprastha, he should accept sannyas. Vanam gato yad dharim ashrayet. Sannyas means accepting unalloyed engagement in the service of the Lord. Vedic civilization therefore recommends 4 different stages of life: brahmacharya, grahastha, vanaprastha, and sannyas. One should be very much ashamed of remaining a householder and not promoting oneself to the 2 higher states, namely vanaprastha and sannyas. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurmittamina Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vikasha Swamin Iti Namane. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Iti Namane. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarane. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So in this chapter, it is described that how King Yayati achieved liberation. After 1,000 years of sexual enjoyment or sexual relationships and enjoyment in this material world, finally King Yayati became disgusted. And when he looked back at his past incidents, he understood the fact that he has really messed it up. And now when he recounts those past incidents, he has devised a story of a he-goat and she-goat. And he is narrating this particular story to his beloved wife, Devayani. So here we can see many points. The first point is that King Yayati, why it took so long for King Yayati to understand that he has messed up his life? It took him 1,000 years to understand. He was entangled in this sexual relationship for 1,000 years, and after that he understood this particular fact. Why? Why is it so? Why he took so long? Actually, it took so long for him because of the attachment which he had. It's not really easy. It's a knot which is not easy to remove from the heart. This attachment is so prominent in everyone's heart. So it's not just him, but then it's all of us who are in the same position as King Yayati is. So when I read this particular story first time in the past, I was really thinking that it's really a long time which King Yayati took. But it's not really long time for him, because he at least have understood the fact that in this lifetime itself he has understood that it's a cause of bondage. And then he devised this particular story. So when he has narrated this particular story, and when we read this particular story, we should not really take this story as casual or as a funny joke. Because here the goat is representing all of us. He or she goat, whatever it is, but then it's representing all of us. How we are really become entanglement in the bondage of attachment of this material world. Second part, what we can see here is that King Yayati was not a demon or is not even an abominable person. He is a good man. Actually, in one of the purport, Prabhupada mentions that he is a dharmic person. That means, okay, he knows what is dharma. He knows how to live a dharmic life. But still, it took so long for him, 1,000 years it is mentioned, to understand that, okay, he should give up this particular entanglement and go to and look for the best alternative. So, if a person like him, I mean, the person who is coming in Surya Vamsha, if I'm not wrong, he is coming in the dynasty where Lord Ramachandra has appeared. And for a person like him is taking so long, so what to speak of us? I mean, he is not an ordinary personality, and we are such an insignificant person that we even don't know that we are in Maya, or we are attached to some things. At least he has understood this point. Similarly, if we look back at other stories, the story of Bharat Maharaj, he was in Bhava stage. And from there, due to attachment, he had to take a birth of a deer. So these big personalities, famous personalities, are getting victimized by Maya. What to speak of us? And we are such an ordinary soul. So we have to be really careful. We have to think all the time what we are doing is right or wrong. Now, this incidents, now King Yayati, as we said that, okay, he is a dharmic person and still he messed it up. I still remember that, okay, in the beginning of my Krishna consciousness, or before coming to Krishna consciousness, I even did not know what dharma means. After coming to Krishna consciousness, I have realized what dharma means and how one should act according to dharma. Before that, I mean, I was really not knowing that what dharma is. And King Yayati here, he knows what dharma is, how he should act, but still he got victimized. Actually, if we see what mistake King Yayati made, from the normal point of view, if we see, it's not really a mistake of Yayati. King Yayati was passing through the forest and he was thirsty. To quench his thirst, he stopped at one of the well, and then there he saw a woman who is really in the well. I mean, she fell in the well. So as a good person, or let's say a nice person, what he did is that he helped her. He helped her and then he took her out of the well. But after that, the problem is that, okay, he spent 1,000 years to understand that he is not thinking of higher test. He is still in the lower modes of material nature. One more point which we can learn here is, we see that people tell, or even I used to think about this, that, okay, when we are young, we have our senses very strong. Our senses are very strong when we are young. For example, okay, if someone asks a young boy to play for many hours, he'll go and play in the garden. Or if someone asks a person to work hard for longer time, he'll go and work hard for longer time. But then as the age increases, we grow more. I mean, we become old, then our stamina decreases. We will not work for more hours as when we used to work when we were young. So similarly, I used to think there was so similar activity. For example, this sex desire also, when I would become old, this sex desire should reduce. Common sense, right? Okay, everyone should think it in that way. That, okay, as I'm becoming old, all my strength, the sensual strength is going down. So ultimately, my sexual desire also should go down. But then I was really wrong. My cousin used to preach me that time. No, Shastra says that this sexual desire is such a bondage, such an attachment, or such a thing that, okay, it doesn't go by performing it more and more. It will ask you more and more. It's like later in this chapter we'll see King Yayati gives an analogy of clarified butter and fire. Clarified butter, when we pour it on the fire, fire does not goes off. It does not extinguish. It increases. So I experienced this when I was really doing my MBA, and after completing my MBA, I got a job, and then we had a sales meet in one of the ship called Carnival ship, where all people will gather and then talk about sales. How did we do how our organization, whether we are going it in the right direction, we are making enough profits to increase the profits, what we shall do. And then as part of that particular meet, we had different parties. And one of the party was, as it was a ship, all regulative principles one can break. Because, okay, meat eating was widely allowed there on that ship. Intoxication was available. And even illicit sex was available. There was a show, I mean, it was a nude show, where you can just buy a ticket and go. And then we are just young graduates, we were really excited. And at the same time, my cousin is preaching me, you are not this body. You should really think of for the higher taste. We are the spirit soul. If you get entangled in this material activities, then you will have to take up a body, and the consciousness which you would have at the end, at the time of the death, the similar kind of body you would receive. And then both the things are going on. And I used to think that, no, I mean, with the age, I would give up all these sensory activities, and definitely I would think about a higher taste. That means a God consciousness. I'll think about why I'm taking this body again and again. And that is the time where I would read Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, and try to understand who is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So my friend and I both were standing, and we both were curious. Who is the first person who buys the ticket? And I was really astonished to see our organization's CFO, Chief Financial Officer, who was around 65 years old. He was right standing first in the queue to buy that particular ticket. And then I realized the fact, oh wow, it's really that with the age, this sexual desire or the mentality to have sex does not go. Such an experience I had, and then I thought that no, what my cousin is saying makes sense. One really should make an effort to understand who are we, who is God, what is my relationship with God. And here the same thing, King Yayati, he thought that, okay, with the age, my desire for the sex will extinguish, it will go down. But later in the chapter we'll see that he tells it to his wife, Devyani, that 1,000 years I have been doing this activity, and every time I am doing it, it is increasing. I want to do it more and more and more. So this is what the problem with every individual in this material world. So let's analyze further. I mean, now, okay, we have discussed 3 incidents, okay, why Yayati kind of came into this particular position. So first one was that, okay, why did he took so long? Actually, he did not take so long. We are taking life after life to come out of this particular stage. 1,000 years, definitely this particular incident narrated in Srimad Bhagavatam is not of Kali Yuga. Definitely it must be of some different Yuga, if I'm not wrong. So he at least have realized the fact in the same lifetime that, oh yeah, I have to come out of this particular attachment, entanglement of sex desire, and have to focus on devotional service. So when we would go on this, hearing this chapter, we should not take it as casual or joke, funny joke, oh, what this goat is, he goat and she goat. we should really see ourselves in that particular position, because we all are in that particular position. And that's the reason we are in this material world. If we would have been not in that particular position, we would have become liberated. We would have gone back to Godhead. So when we go on reading this particular chapter, we should really think ourselves in that position, that he-goat, how this he-goat got attracted to a she-goat, and then how he got attached, and how he thought that this is what the life is, and this is what the happiness means, and how he has realized the fact, and then how he came out of it. This is the learning which we can have from this particular chapter. Now, as we said, that okay, King Yayati got entangled. What was his problem? We said he was dharmic. We said that okay, he was a hero, he was a king, he knew dharma. As a nice person, he saved Devayani. So what was the problem? The problem was his mind was polluted. So mind was polluted. When the mind was polluted, polluted means the mind is dirty. Dirty. For example, we all know this air pollution or noise pollution. So how do we measure this pollution, air pollution? People measure this air pollution by micrograms per cubic meter. In layman terms, they measure it by BSP. So they measure it, and then they understand the air is polluted. So similarly, as we don't see air, similarly we don't see mind. So how do we know that our mind is polluted? Our mind is dirty. We understand this when we perform activities which are sinful. When we perform these activities, we understand that our mind is dirty, and we have to really cleanse this particular mind. What are these activities? Now, for example, a person who is smoking, he knows that smoking is injurious to health. He knows he is going to get cancer, but still he smokes. Because his mind is dirty, and then he wants to enjoy. He thinks that, okay, he is enjoying, but he is actually suffering. But then that particular time, as his senses are covered, his intelligence is covered, his mind is covered, he thinks that he is enjoying. So don't we think that, okay, person who is taking drugs doesn't know that, okay, he is going to get addicted, or a person who is drinking alcohol doesn't know that, okay, he is going to get addicted. They knows, but then the point is that, okay, as their mind is polluted, they get victimized to this particular activities, and then they go on performing these sinful activities. For example, in Shastra, it is said this individual is a passenger, and he is sitting in the body of chariot. And this chariot is driven by a person which is called as intelligence. And he has ropes in his mind, in his hands, which represents mind. And these ropes are connected to the sensory organs or the horses. So, when a person, the intelligence is intact, and he controls the rope of the mind, the chariot goes in the right direction. That means that soul is going in the right direction. He knows what he is doing is right or wrong. If those ropes of mind are loosened, why it is loosened? Because intelligence is not doing his job properly. And the moment that happens, the mind overpowers intelligence, and everything goes for a toss. Then this chariot doesn't know where it is going, which direction it is going. And such a chariot is going to doom. It's going to get drowned, or it's not going to go the destination where he is supposed to do. And then the same thing is happening with us. When we, as we all know that, okay, our mind is polluted, and because of that we are in this material world. Now, if an intelligent person, if he is really an intelligent person, then he tries to see, oh, is this right or wrong? And how one can see it, whether it is right or wrong? Through Shastra, through Jnana Chakshusha, through the knowledge of wisdom which is given in Shastra. If he is an intelligent person and if he goes to a cigarette shop, then he understands that anyways it is written that, okay, it's injurious to health. If I smoke this, I am going to get affected by this. So I should not really do this. And definitely, okay, if I do this, if I get entangled in this intoxication, I am going to suffer. That is a person who has got an intelligence. A person who has not got an intelligence, he just carries away. Carries away, like in Shastra it is mentioned that the flavor, the wind carries the flavor. Similarly, here, if the person is not an intelligent person, then he goes with the flow. Says, oh, okay, everyone is doing. Let me also see once. There is no harm just seeing it or tasting it. And I'll just give it up. But once he goes on doing that, then he gets addicted. And then such a person becomes mad. Similarly, as King Yayati has become mad. He was so mad that he was running after his wife. That was the real position of a materialistic person of this world. This person, this materialistic person is so mad after woman, wine and wealth. There are 3 W's. Woman, wine and wealth. That he has lost his intelligence and then he is mad after woman, wine and wealth so much that he has given up everything. For example, in Shastra, we see that Ajamil's story. He was a good man. He was a Brahmana. He was doing all his activities properly. But when he saw a prostitute doing a sensual activity with other person, he lost his intelligence. And then he followed that particular prostitute. So similarly, when we give up our intelligence, when a person gives up the intelligence, he becomes mad. And this material world is really a madhouse. For example, when the madman we saw in the hospital, mad means this mental hospital, we see that the person, how do we identify that he is mad? Because he imitates. He imitates himself as some personality. For example, okay, as we heard yesterday that, okay, that mad person imitates as a prime minister, or a mad person imitates as a hero, or mad person imitates as a doctor. So similarly, this material world is a madhouse where each and every person is imitating, saying that he is a doctor, he is an engineer, he is an American, he is an Indian, he is a philosopher. So that's the reason these all mad people should get admitted to a mental hospital to get cured. And what this mental hospital is? And this mental hospital is the one which Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has created. Srila Prabhupada has created. Srila Prabhupada said that our temples are hospitals. Why these are hospitals? Because we rectify the disease of a person who thinks that he is the body. Who thinks that this material world is made for him to enjoy. One who thinks that there is no life after death. For such people, this particular mental hospital is built. And this madhouse, this material world, which is a madhouse, when these people try to enjoy this material world, go on enjoying, when they become frustrated, once they become frustrated, the end of their particular frustration is what? Either they start speculating, they come up with a mental speculation, or they say that I am the God, means that particular person is a God. Or the end, they said that, okay, God does not exist. That is the frustration of those particular living entities. They say that God does not exist. And then we hear this kind of quotes from atheists. For example, Albert Einstein, once he said, the word God is for me nothing more than the expression and product of human weaknesses. The Bible, a collection of honorable, but still primitive legends which are nevertheless pretty childish. No interpretation, no matter how subtle, can this change be. This is what the atheists talk about. One of the famous atheists called Isaac Asimov, he said, I am an atheist out and out. It took me a long time to say it. I have been an atheist for years and years. But somehow, I felt it was intellectually irrespectable to say one was an atheist, because it assumed knowledge that one did not have. Somehow, it was better to say one was a humanist or an agnostic. I finally decided that I am a creature of emotion as well as of reason. Emotionally, I am an atheist. I don't have the evidence to prove that God does not exist. But I so strongly suspect He does not, that I don't want to waste my time. This is the condition of these people. First of all, they will try to enjoy this life and get whipped by material modes of nature. Someone will get whipped by the golden robes, someone will get whipped by the silver robes, and someone will get whipped by the iron robes. But they'll get whipped again and again, till the time they understand why they are in this precarious condition. And if they are fortunate, then they look after, or they will be in search of such mental hospital to get cured. But if they are not fortunate, if they think that, okay, they have got all the intelligence, if they think that, okay, they have learned enough of this material education, the problem with material education is that this material education teach these particular people that there is no God. They teach that you are someone special. They teach that you are the one who can make this world better. We don't have any problem. Why we all the time criticize this education, actually material education, because this material education is covering the senses of human beings. They are covering their senses by telling them or by teaching them that they are someone special. And our education starts by saying that we are not special, we are insignificant. We are not the enjoyer, we are to be enjoyed. We are not the masters, we are the servants. And that's where the conflict starts between this material education and spiritual education. And that's the reason we criticize, because this material education is teaching people how to become atheist. And we, from Shastra, would like to teach these Gurukul boys that how you can become theist, how you can surrender your life onto the lotus feet of Supreme Personality of Godhead. And that's the problem. When a person who forgets his identity, all the problem starts. So here also, when we see that King Yayati, even if he is dharmic, even if he is king, even if he has understood uh, that this is the material world, he couldn't give up. Why he couldn't give up? Because he is attached. His mind is polluted. His mind is not in control. As Bhagavad Gita chapter number 6 verse number 34 says, why this mind is not in control? Because this mind is flickering. This is restless. It's chanchalam. It is restless. It is obstinate. It is turbulent. This mind is like a wind. Arjuna says this before in the chapter 6. Arjuna, when Krishna explains the yoga system, that how one can control the mind by performing yoga, Arjuna tells this fact, and this is the position of each and every living entity, that we cannot control our mind with so-called yoga. Our mind is so flickering. It's like a wind. It's like a raging wind. We cannot control this wind, this mind. And that's the reason then Arjuna, what he does? He surrenders himself to Supreme Personality of Godhead. I cannot follow this particular yoga system. First of all, it is very difficult. I have to follow so many rules and regulations. And I am a grihastha. I have to look after my family. I have to be in this grihastha life. So becoming a grihastha, how can I control my mind? And then Arjuna starts the first verse of 7th chapter, Maya Sakta Manha Partha, Yogam Junjan Madashrayaha, Asamshayam Samagram Ma Tatha Jasasi Tat Shrunu. Then he says, O son of Pritha, hear from me that you have to engage yourself in the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And that's what Yayati, King Yayati, the rest of the chapter, the half of the chapter, King Yayati narrates this particular he-goat and she-goat story. And then he talks about the effect of this particular sexual entanglement. What is the problem with the sexual entanglement? And then rest of the chapter, King Yayati performs devotional service. So first thing what he does is, as Srila Prabhupada mentions here in, this is locked. This is locked. Okay, I'll just read it from here. Srila Prabhupada mentions that the Vanaprastha who have retired from family life generally lament about their past family life. That's what King Yayati is doing. He has spent 1,000 years in sexual desire, and after spending 1,000 years, now he has realized the fact that, oh, what a mess I have done. Prabhupada mentions here, generally lament about their past family life because it engaged them in trying to fulfill lusty desires. And then Prabhupada continues, Prahlad Maharaj said that one should retire from family life as soon as possible. And he described family life as the darkest well. So we have to follow, as King Yayati followed Prahlad Maharaj. What he did? He just retired from family life. Because he understood that more I am trying to fulfill this sexual desire, more it is asking for me. For example, a drunkard, when he is drunkard, what is the result of that particular drunkard person? When he drinks more and more alcohol, the result of that drunkard person is he sleeps in drainage. So similarly, when alcohol of sexual desire, we drink more and more, the end is we are going in drainage. The drainage of Punarapi Jananam, Punarapi Maranam, Punarapi Jatare Janani Shayanam. That is the drainage. Shastra really mentions that as a drainage. Because Shastra says when a soul who is in the womb of a mother, takes up a body, when the soul takes up a body and then he is in the womb of a mother, he does everything in that particular space or particular box of uterus, if I'm not wrong, uterus, right? A womb is a scientific term called uterus. In the womb, he passes stool there, he passes urine there, he eats. If his mother has any problem, then the same effect is been suffered by that particular soul. So it's a drainage. So that's what Prahlad Maharaj says, that it is a darkest well, and if one continuously or permanently concentrates on living with his family, he should be understood to be killing himself. As Shastra again says, this mind is like an unchaste wife. Like unchaste wife kills her husband. Similarly, this uncontrolled mind, especially when it is uncontrolled, it kills the soul. And that's what is mentioned here. That's the reason Prabhupada in purport says, if one continuously or permanently concentrates on living with his family, he should be understood to be killing himself. In Vedic civilization, therefore, it is recommended that one retire from family life at the end of his 50th year and go to Vana, the forest. When he becomes expert or accustomed to forest life or retired life as a Vanaprastha, he should accept sannyas. Vanam gato yad dharim ashrayet. Sannyas means accepting unalloyed engagement in the service of the Lord. Vedic civilization therefore recommends 4 different stages of life: Brahmacharya, Grahastha, Vanaprastha and Sannyas. One should be very much ashamed of remaining a householder and not promoting oneself to the 2 higher stages, namely Vanaprastha and Sannyas. So one might ask question. We can see, one might ask question, Prabhu, there are no forests now. Vanaprastha means, one has to go to forest, right? No. Actually, yes. Initially, there was a system that, one will give up the family and go to Vana. So here, what Prabhupada is mentioning is that one should be detached from family life. One should be detached completely, and he should concentrate his mind. He should spend more and more time in the temple, in the service of the temple, in the service of his spiritual master, in the service of Prabhupada, in the service of Krishna. More and more, he should spend time on doing these activities. Then one can say that he has as good as achieved Vanaprastha. After 50 also, if one thinks, what will happen to my son? He's still studying in engineering college. When will he completes engineering? When he'll get a job? When he'll get settled down? When he'll get married? My daughter is still not got married. Actually, I'm talking about it. I'm 42. I'll see what I will do at the age of 50. It's very easy to talk, very difficult to follow, but one should follow. One should not really think that, now what will happen to my family? What will happen to my daughter? What will happen to my son? What will happen to my grandson, my granddaughter? One should simply engage more and more in the service of the Lord. That's what Prabhupada is saying. If we don't do that, then Prabhupada is saying that one should feel ashamed of remaining a householder and not promoting oneself to the 2 higher stages, namely Vanaprastha and Sannyas. And that's what King Yayati did. After spending so many years, 1,000 years in the sexual relationship and enjoyment of this material world, and when he disgusted with this particular activity, and when he recounted his past deeds, he devised this particular story of he-goat and she-goat, narrated the same story to his wife, and then he followed the instruction of Shastra. He gave up all his possessions. He divided his property to his sons, and then took a vanaprastha and focused his mind on devotional service. So we'll stop here. Hare Krishna. If you have any questions, comments, any mistakes, please let me know. श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय, श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय, गौर प्रेमानंदे, हरि हरि बोल.